To an external observer, the space station looked very peaceful as it circled its home planet of Talaron 3, gliding serenely above white clouds, blue seas and green continents that were very reminiscent of Earth. Aboard it, however, both peace and serenity were decidedly absent. In the repair section of the station there was much rattling and clanging, as the doctor urgently rummaged through the shelves of electronic equipment surrounding him. This was an emergency, and unless he could find the right components to make what he needed to make, people were going to die.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear! Why can you never find what you need when you need it? Oh.
Then, abruptly, he straightened up. Something felt different. He looked around sharply. Nothing seemed to have changed, but he knew beyond all doubt that something had. He could feel it.
"Something has indeed changed,"
said a voice, answering the thought he hadn't spoken aloud.
"Not least you."
The doctor span round. In spite of his current preoccupations, recognition was instant.
Oh my word! It's you. The woman from Lunaeviginti.
She smiled tolerantly.
"I'm afraid you're under a misapprehension, Doctor. That's not where I'm from. That's simply where we first spoke."
Then where are you from?
"Oh, like you, here and there. Now and then. Round and about. Most recently the TARDIS, but of course you weren't there. So I've come to where you are, instead of where you aren't."
From which I gather you don't intend to be any more forthcoming than before. What a pity.
The doctor said politely, masking with a pretense of regret his rising impatience at being sidetracked from the task in hand. Normally he would have been delighted by such an unexpected development, but at the moment it was a distraction he could well have done without.
"No more forthcoming than you would be if the positions were reversed, I suspect,"
the woman teased gently. The doctor remembered that unfathomable smile of hers and fought down his exasperation.
Yes. Well, it's lovely to see you again, whoever you are, but I'm really rather busy at the moment. This space station has been invaded by some particularly unfriendly aliens who've installed an explosive device inside the main power room and rendered it impossible for anyone to get in there. And if you've been to the TARDIS, you'll know that it also is in that room. So, well, if I can't construct something that will send the correct signal through their shielding to deactivate the device remotely, everyone here is going to die.
"Oh, I'm well aware you're mid-crisis, but I'll only take a second of your time, I assure you."
The doctor stared at her for a moment. Then realization dawned.
A second? Of course. I should have recognized that sensation. You put us inside a temporal suspension cell, haven't you?
"A small bubble in which the normal duration of time is suspended. I thought you'd work it out. When I release the bubble, you'll be back in normal time with just 1 second of your personal subjective time having elapsed. Nobody else will even have realized you've been gone. So don't worry, I'll let you get back to your crisis with no essential loss of duration, so that you may continue to address the situation with your usual genius."
How have you done it? There aren't very many people who can manipulate time, you know. Oh, my Gideon. You haven't come from... you haven't been sent by...
"No, Doctor. I have not been sent by the Time Lords. I give you my word on that."
Her tone carried conviction, and the doctor relaxed.
Oh, thank goodness. I can't tell you how relieved I am about that. If they were to track me down, well...
"Yes, I know."
The doctor studied her for a moment, chewing his lip thoughtfully.
If you're not from the Time Lords, how were you able to create a temporal suspension cell?
The soberness of her expression was swiftly replaced by her characteristic air of suppressed amusement.
Why, Doctor, are you suggesting that I would only be capable of controlling time if I were a Time Lord? How parochial of you. Sorry to be bursting your bubble on that point.
She was teasing him again. He huffed and scowled at her, doing so even more furiously as it became clear he was simply adding to her amusement. He didn't attempt to conceal his annoyance as he turned his back on her to continue searching through the assortment of electronic equipment on the shelf in front of him. She smiled, unruffled.
Tell me, where are Jamie and Victoria?
Trying to keep everyone else calm and out of my way while I work. And in imminent and very great danger, as I've already explained. Such a pity they're not here. I'd love to introduce them to you. But of course that'd be a bit difficult, wouldn't it? Because I'm still waiting for you to tell me your name. But I'm sure you'll get round to it one of these days, in your own good time.
Her lips pursed into an O of amusement.
Ooh, is that the pot calling the kettle black, Doctor? Tut, tut. Well, I'll strike a bargain with you. You tell me your name, and I'll tell you mine.
The twinkle in her eye, as she issued her invitation, made it obvious she was well aware what his response would be. The Doctor turned briefly to glower at her before resuming his task.
No?
She pretended surprise, with an exaggeration that was clearly intentional, before continuing equably.
Well, I did offer. You can't say fairer than that. You know, this is rather like the time you had to construct that clever little box you used to subvert the control spheres employed by the Great Intelligence to direct the Yeti. You're really very clever at coming up with devices that help save the day, Doctor. It's always useful to have the right tool for the right job. Perhaps you should start carrying a screwdriver with you. After all, you never know when you're going to need one.
The Doctor merely grunted in response, obviously paying scant attention.
Well, fear not. I'm sure you'll soon resolve your crisis. After all, you succeeded against the Great Intelligence, didn't you? And of course you had the redoubtable Colonel Lethbridge Stewart on your side, too.
Well, I must admit he seemed a decent enough chap. Quite an open mind for a soldier. Not that that's saying much.
Oh, there's much more to him than that. He has many sterling qualities, but I can assure you you'll come to value very highly.
The Doctor stopped what he was doing and turned to stare at her narrowly.
How do you know that?
How do you know many of the things you know, Doctor? The answer should be obvious to a man of your intellect.
Yes, I suppose it is. But right now, if you don't mind my asking, is there an actual purpose to this visit? Or did you merely feel like stopping by for an idle chat? Because if there isn't anything else particular you want to say... I really am rather busy at the moment.
The woman held up her hands and bowed her head, conceding the point.
Of course, you're quite right, Doctor. I really mustn't hold you up. You've got devices to construct, people to save. Next time, I'll try to choose a moment when you have less calls on your attention.
Yes, well, I have to say I'll be very much obliged to you if that's the case. And when can I expect this next visitation, if it's not too much trouble for you to tell me?
But the strange sensation that had alerted him was gone. Time had returned to normal, and his inexplicable visitor had vanished, just as mysteriously as she had appeared. The Doctor stared round for a moment or two, but to no purpose. Despite himself, he couldn't avoid feeling intrigued. Who was she, and what did she want? But he couldn't afford to waste time on the conundrum now.
Bursting my bubble indeed. Well, madam, I certainly have got people to save, so I'd better get on with it, hadn't I?